Chapter 1789, The Day of the Fall. Fremons was very cold to Zhang Yi's team. Zhang Yi was not angry, but just remembered their attitude of using people to move forward and not to move backward. There will be a day when mountains and rivers meet, and sooner or later there will be a day to return. Zhang Yi is not in a hurry at all. Moreover, he believes that with the arrival of reinforcements from all over the world, the conflict between the human army and the mechanical civilization will become more and more acute. He chose to wait and see, and then take the next step. Fremons looked at people and served them. So did he? If there was no benefit, he would only repay Fremons' previous support to a certain extent. As the saying goes, interests come first. Even between Huashu country and Fremons, it is ridiculous to talk about feelings. Let's go back first. Let Quran and Xian study those things carefully in the next 2 days. At this point, Zhang Yi turned around and stretched out his hand to Lu Quran. Lu Quran hurried to Zhang Yi's side. Zhang Yi asked, "Is there any way to repair the tens of thousands of mechanical life forms we got and turn them into our own mechanical army?" Lu Quran nodded. "Of course. Their materials are very advanced, but I can replicate them. However, its core technology is very complicated. This is a completely different route from human mechanical technology. If you want to crack it, it depends on Xin. Well, how should I put it? The difference between the mechanical language of mechanical civilization and the mechanical language of humans is like the difference between Chinese and English. We first need to completely crack it." Zhang Yi asked curiously, "Can't we just rewrite it in human mechanical language?" Yang Xin explained, "The mechanical language of mechanical civilization is more advanced and more efficient than that of humans. If our mechanical language is implanted, the performance of the product obtained may be only 1/3 of the original." Zhang Yi couldn't help but sigh. This is the power of technology. Then, can we ensure that we are ahead in technology in this area? We must build a mechanical army before other countries. Speaking of this, Lu Karen smiled proudly. "Brother, if I guess correctly, they can hardly even open the energy core and observe its internal structure now. It is a material harder than diamond, without any cracks, and human technology cannot open it without damage." Fremons' research used a laser knife to forcibly split it, but this would inevitably cause damage to its internal structure, greatly affecting the research efficiency. Moreover, even if they spent a long time and great energy to thoroughly study its operating principle, there is no technical means to replicate it. Lu Karen is different. Her hands are the hands of God. Divine machine control can even allow her hands to penetrate the material like penetrating water and separate the energy core shell without damaging it. In other words, we will be the first human organization in the world to obtain this technology, Zhang Yi said with a smile, his eyes full of joy. Tianhai City has a population of only tens of thousands, and they need to consider their food, clothing, housing, transportation, and loyalty. But if mechanical life forms can replace humans, many things will become simple. In theory, brother, Lu Karen said. Well, you don't need to think about other things during this period. Just concentrate on cracking the secret of the core of the mechanical life form. Zhang Yi encouraged Lu Karen. The group came to the residence arranged for them by Fremons. Zhang Yi withdrew the soldiers sent here and asked the fleeing troops to be responsible for the vigilance around the residence. However, not long after he arrived here, someone came to find him. It was Zhang Yi's old friend, the thunder god Purin of the Pantheon, the bearded Alexei Ivanov. He came with 2 large bottles of vodka and a large bag under his arm. When Zhang Yi saw Alexei, a sincere smile appeared on his face. He didn't spend too much time with Alexei, but this honest Fremons man won his respect. People's performance when facing a life-and-death crisis will not lie. In the battle with the pseudo-underworld gatekeeper, Alexei's life-threatening style proved that he was a trustworthy person. So later, when he was recuperating in Blizzard City, Zhang Yi often visited him. "My friends, welcome to Fremons," Alexei said, shaking the vodka in his hand, and put a large bag of things under his arm on the table. Zhang Yi and a few others hadn't eaten yet, so they took out the food from the alien space and prepared to have a meal. Seeing what Alexei brought, everyone laughed. It turned out to be a few strings of handmade sausages, each as thick as Alexei's arm. Alexei said that this was made by his wife. Zhang Yi and others didn't say hello to him, and everyone sat together to eat. After not seeing each other for a while, Zhang Yi felt that Alexei looked a little more vicissitudes than when he left Huashu Kingdom, with dark circles under his eyes and less flesh on his face. It can be seen that he has been very busy recently. A group of people casually exchanged greetings and talked about their respective family matters. Zhang Yi was naturally busy with Tianhai Fort, the reconstruction of the fort. When it comes to Alexei's home, he sighed. Fremons has not been peaceful recently. Everyone is worried that those iron guys will come to kill them. Even my wife Natasha always wakes up from her sleep and hugs me and cries. Zhou Kuter couldn't help putting down her chopsticks and asked, as a powerful alien like you, your wife has no sense of security. She and Zhang Yi have been together for 3 years. In the past 3 years, they have experienced many ups and downs, but no matter what happens, Zhang Yi will protect them well. Alexei is also a Black Chariot level Epsilon alien, and he is one of the best in the world. So Zhou Kuter was surprised by this. Alexei said helplessly, you don't know what happened that day. He talked about the night when the mechanical army attacked Karen City. Karen City is the capital of Fremons and the most powerful place in the entire Fremons armed forces. Not only is there one of the world's top troops here, but there are also aliens from the Temple of the Gods. Even though other areas were unstable, the top leaders still concentrated their core forces here to ensure the safety of them and their families. However, no one expected that one night, without any signs, mechanical life forms would emerge from the ground like a tide. All their advanced instruments and equipment became useless. The earth was shattered, the houses collapsed, and Alexei's house was destroyed. They woke up from their sleep, and his wife and children were exposed to the cold wind of more than 100 degrees below zero, and they were almost frozen to death. Alexei hurriedly protected his wife and daughter, and the city of Karen in front of him was full of people who had frozen to death in the cold wind and huge mechanical life forms. One after another, super-large mechanical life forms, like huge ancient gods, stood everywhere in Karen City, spraying rays of destructive light, cutting the city into pieces. Alexei said this and took a big sip of vodka. Burp. He burped, looked at Zhang Yi and said, you must be careful. Those guys are more powerful than you think. Fatty Su came over with a glass of wine, smiled and put his arm around Alexei's shoulders, boasting, hey, old Xia, don't worry, in the past you didn't have enough troops and couldn't beat those iron plates. Now, haha. He stretched out his hand and patted his chest loudly. I, Marshal Tianping, came here under the leadership of my big brother Hun Dun, and I easily solved that little thing for you. You must know that we just came to Fremons and killed tens of thousands of mechanical life forms. It was effortless. Alexei shook his head. No, you only encountered a small group of troops. You have never encountered a truly tough opponent. Zhang Yi, Deng Shintong, Liang Yu and others looked at each other and continued to ask. I have seen the video you sent, and it is not much different from what we encountered. Even if the number of mechanical armies attacking Karen City is larger, it should not be so terrifying, right? Alexei put the wine glass on the table with a bang. We have ways to deal with those things, no matter how many there are. Chaos, don't you realize that they are actually engineering robots? This sentence really made Zhang Yi a little stunned. Engineering robots? Do you mean things similar to the tower cranes and mechanical arms we use? He couldn't help but recall. Suddenly, he remembered that he had made a joke when he was chatting with Fatty Su and others before. These mechanical life forms obviously have such powerful combat power, but they all ran over to dig the ground. What a waste. But now thinking carefully, their structure is indeed more like engineering machinery. Even those super-large mechanical life forms are a little slow and clumsy. If it was really for fighting, it would be better to build a tracked vehicle or directly use an aerospace warship. Including those mass-produced machines, the means of attack are also very simple, and some even use cold weapons like engineer shovels. At first, Zhang Yi thought that it was a special weapon of the mechanical civilization. Now, combined with Alexei's statement, it seems that they are really facing only the engineering team. There was silence at the dinner table. If the engineering troops alone have turned the whole Fremons upside down, how powerful would the combat-type mechanical life forms be? Zhang Yi looked at Alexei and said slowly, "The combat-type mechanical life forms are the humanoid creatures you once reminded me of, right?" Alexei took a big sip of vodka. He reached out and scratched his head, and then took out a chip from his thick beard and handed it to Zhang Yi. "Pudaga and others have concealed important information from all of you. My friend, you will understand after reading this." Zhang Yi took the chip and understood something instantly. "Did you keep this secretly by yourself?" Alexei is a good person, but he is a member of the Fremons pantheon after all. Zhang Yi didn't expect that he would give him an important piece of information without the pantheon's knowledge. Zhang Yi himself couldn't help but wonder if this was a play performed by the pantheon. Alexei said frankly, "I am not in the same group with them. The pantheon is just an alien organization with many factions. Pudaga represents the official and is a senior administrative official. And I was invited to join them just because I am quite capable. My original intention is to protect the citizens and my home. I'm sorry, my friend. I don't know much. After all, I can't get to their core level. I can only tell you everything I know." Zhang Yi nodded and raised the glass in his hand to Alexei. "Thank you very much for your sincerity, my friend. Cheers." As he said that, Zhang Yi drank the wine in the glass in one gulp. The drinking lasted from day to night, but Alexei's alcohol tolerance was really good. In the end, he took off his upper body clothes, put them on his shoulders, and left in the cold wind of more than 100 degrees below zero. After he left, Deng Shintong said, "Sure enough, where there are people, there will be internal friction. It's really troublesome." Zhang Yi glanced at him and smiled disdainfully. "It's the same everywhere. You Blizzard City can be divided into several factions, so don't laugh at others." Zhu Zheng, that old guy, was able to hide Juyu for his own benefit in the war against the Wulwan Empire. They have no right to evaluate others. Can Alexei believe it? Is it possible that this is a plan between him and the Temple of the Gods? Deng Shintong asked. "I have my own brain." Zhang Yi just responded lightly. "You should not have the intention to harm others, but you must be on guard against others. Even if they're friends, it's right to be more careful. Let's take a look at what's inside this chip first." Zhang Yi shook the chip in his hand, read it with the intelligence system, and then projected it directly in front of him. The image was displayed in front of everyone, and what came into view was a night with flames rising to the sky. The day when Karen City fell, the image recorded by Alexei's portable intelligence system. Zhang Yi looked at the scenes in front of him intently, and the flickering black light and shadow were reflected on his pupils. He looked very carefully, and some of the hazy shadows that appeared in that battle were also firmly remembered in his mind.